And Andrew and Kirsten, I know you guys, of course, held down the pod of that Nature post-game show, did a great job with the report card and everything over the weekend. So I know you guys are probably about to the point of like you've talked about each and every angle from this Arkansas Ole Miss game. But we enter into a bye week, and I'll just say it because I know you guys, of course, said pretty much everything I felt too when I had a chance to listen to it. But man, like that was embarrassing. It was pathetic. It was a showing that I really didn't expect, which is saying something because I try to expect the unexpected. I felt like there was a chance that this game could get out of hand and it could be a blowout for Ole Miss over Arkansas just due to the fact of them defensively. What I did not expect is Arkansas's defense to look like it did under the Chad Morris era or even under the 2022 season and everything. And so how I feel about it, and again, we'll have a lot of reaction from the fans, I'm getting to the point where I think this is about done. I think this is about it. I mean, you got 3 games left. You got this bye week. You got Texas coming to town, whatever it is. But I just can't sit here and try to pretend hope, like try to fake hope, fake belief, fake anything. I can't do it this week. I have no excitement. I have no energy for this team. I have no energy for the rest of the season. And I don't have any belief in them. And that's what happens when you get trounced the way you did and embarrassed on your home field once again. And I just really feel close that this is about to be really interesting and a lot of things about to change here in the next month or so.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to feel that way, John, because honestly, it's not the fact that Arkansas lost the game. It's the way they lost the game, right? I mean, I think Sam Pittman over the course of 7 days, like in the eyes of many, kind of coached his way off of the hot seat and then coached his way right back on it. By that, you cannot have this ever, much less in year 5, where you're giving up 63 points and on your home field, and you're just letting a team just set record after record and rub it in your face and celebrate. And now Lane Kiffin's trolling you on Twitter. It's just a horrible look, an embarrassing look. And it goes back to a pattern of what's been going on at home under this regime. And the Tennessee game, unfortunately, turned out to be an outlier because every other example that we've had here recently is Arkansas just getting the hell beat out of them and looking completely unprepared, like they don't belong on their own home field. And you just cannot have that. And so I understand the frustration that everybody has after this one. I think the frustration is amplified when you go to the post-game presser and you have a head coach who is not frustrated by it, or at least doesn't appear to be. And it's like, what the hell does it take to get a little bit of emotion and a little bit of fire out of this guy? It didn't happen on the sidelines on Saturday, and it didn't happen after the game. And now here we go into a bye week where we got 2 weeks of having to deal with this crap. So I keep feeling like I'm over it, and I don't have anything else to say about it. And I even text you guys earlier. I was like, I don't know if I've got any more takes about this. Every time I think about it, I get pissed off all over again. It's so frustrating that we're here again because I was really hoping we were done with this crap.
The same things again. You remember what Brian Kelly rants? But no, Saturday was the kind of loss that frankly should piss people off. And it also should be a time where you start asking questions. Like we always do the joke about asking the tough questions. And I'm not like saying like, hey, people need to go in with their pitchforks, but I'm just saying when you get beat the way Arkansas got beat on Saturday, it's a very good time to look in the mirror and be like, holy cow, like what are we doing? Because, you know, we didn't expect that to happen. I would like to think the team didn't expect that to happen. People nationally didn't expect that to happen since they're marveling at the head coach. And also Arkansas was only a 7.5 point underdog in this game. And just like they were a 2.5 point underdog against LSU. So these 2 blowouts that have happened at home back to back, they kind of came out of nowhere. And when they happen in succession of each other, and particularly against a program that hired a head coach the same offseason you hired your head coach, and they've gone consistently up, you know, it's a fair time to start asking some of these big picture questions and have these evaluations of really where this team and program is at. And frankly, we can have the conversation and we can come to the conclusion that everything's going to be fine. Like I'm willing to hear that case, but if we're not having these conversations after that type of performance and that type of showing, then we're just not being honest and we're not being real with ourselves and kind of what we expect and what we should be expecting from this program.
Yeah, and the optics of it just make it even worse, aside from the score, right? Because you had the weird comments before the game, the blue light special versus Louis Vuitton stuff, and then you had just, unfortunately, all appearances were that there was some quit on that football field in the second half of that game. Just everything that goes into it, man, is incredibly infuriating, and I feel bad. I really do for Razorback fans because anyone who went to that game or traveled to go see that game or whatever. We drove back from Fort Worth. That way we could cover it. I wish we didn't do that. I wish we stayed. I wish we slept in and didn't put ourselves through that. It's ridiculous. It's not fair.
No, it's not. And I will be honest, there was a time after the game on Saturday where I almost challenged a man to a fight, like an actual duel, one for the ages, because I was so irate at the fact that he had the audacity, the unmitigated clamarity to try and say, NIL, Ole Miss they got better players, NIL. And I just wanted to slap somebody. Here's the thing. Every single loss and every single time that you go through anything in sports, especially when it comes to very important things like college football is to the Razorbacks and to the Arkansans here in the state, all of those things, you're always going to have people try to point to something because we want explanations for everything. And if you're you maybe more of a pessimistic person, you're just like, well, it's the coaching, so fire everybody. If you're more of an optimist, and be like, well, we just need a few more players here and there. We need a few more things. Everyone's going to have their own outlooks on this. But I cannot stress enough how there is zero anything outside of the football program, of those walls and inside of that stadium on Saturday, that there is zero that had to do with that game. Not NIL, not lack of facilities, not anything. The only thing that mattered was on that field. And I'm sorry, if you're good enough to go out and beat a Tennessee team, if you're good enough to go out and dominate a Mississippi State team, I know they suck, but you're good enough to go out and dominate them in their place, you have to be, and you should be, good enough to at least compete against a team like Ole Miss, an Ole Miss team that lost to Kentucky earlier this year, an Ole Miss team that has struggled at times against other teams, and in some cases, teams that are just as good as you, or maybe in some cases even worse than you, but it's just you. I have never seen anything in my life that is a step forward, 2 steps back than this program right now under Sam Pittman. It just is infuriating, the excuse making that is going on. And I'm with you guys about the lack of fire and passion and energy. I'm like, dude, you got fans in the stands that are leaving in droves and are pissed off, and everyone's mad about the way that things went. And then you're coming out here, it's just whatever. It's like, it bothers me. Everything about this bothers me. I don't want it changed. I want it all changed. I don't want to deal with this in the offseason. I don't want to deal with this lack of excitement. I don't want to have this team go to a bowl game, go to freaking Birmingham or Montgomery or Giddy City or wherever it's going to be. I don't want any of this. I'm to the point where I'm like, just get this over with, and whatever's going to happen, let's get going. Let's just figure something out, because I'm done with the way that things are going right now. I'm done with it.
Yeah, it's a shame, man, how one game can just change your trajectory of things so much, because even after the Mississippi State game, and it is what it is, with them being terrible or whatever, you could at least look at it and be like, there's a path to a pretty cool season here. They could get to a good bowl game. Like maybe things are trending, whatever. But it's nuts. Just one performance, 60 minutes of football can just completely flip that around. I feel the same way right now. I hope that I come around before they play Texas, and I get excited for that and whatever they can do for the last 3 games of the season. But right now I'm kind of with you, John, where I'm like, dude, I don't even care. I don't care about it. So frustrating, because what would happen? Maybe they go out there and play great against Texas or whatever, and then they'll come out unprepared against Louisiana Tech or whatever. They'll get the hell beat out of them at Missouri or something. It's 1 step forward, 2 steps back, like you said. And there has to be some way on this planet to appease the football gods and change this cycle, because it's infuriating.
100%. And to be clear, them simply losing to Ole Miss is not what is getting this reaction. It's the way they lost, and it's the fact that the head coach himself and other people who work within the university are literally citing NIL as the reason for the loss. Which, look, whether that's true or not, what are you saying about Arkansas as a program if you're just like, hey, yeah, I know this school in Mississippi that has fewer wins than Arkansas all time and shares their very low talent level state with another SEC school. We just simply can't compete with these cats. And it is what it is. That is true at the moment. And it just is crazy that it's that we're supposed to just accept that and be like, okay, yeah, Arkansas just can't, I know they hired their head coach the exact same offseason, and that could have been your head coach. But you just can't compete with that guy. It's just really hard. And it really is. It's infuriating to have people who work for the university literally saying, I mean, Sam Pittman on TV talking about, oh, well, I mean, they got the Louis V over there at Oxford, Mississippi. Like, it'd be one thing if you were playing even an A&M who has all this ag money, the state of Texas has football talent, all that. When you're saying you can't compete with Ole Miss, what does that say about, are you going to be able to compete with Texas? Are you even going to be able to compete with Missouri, who's been crushing it in the NIL department also? Like, are you just, where are you accepting Arkansas's place among these competitors that they see every week? And to John's point, you beat some of them regularly. You competed with Ole Miss really well the last 4 years. Why is that? Why is NIL just now becoming a factor? And at the end of the day, NIL is something that is like a part of the game. Whether we like it or not, it is what it is. You don't get to say, hey, I'm an NFL team. Well, I mean, it's just the only reason we didn't win a Super Bowl, it's single elimination playoff format. I mean, that's just messed up. Like it's like, well, that's the rules we're working with. So it's like, if you don't like it, then I guess you should just quit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this NIL stuff, man, it's so stupid. It's so dumb. Like, yeah, you got to be like, here's my question. Okay, say if Arkansas did have that NIL, that Louis Vuitton or whatever that Ole Miss had. Okay, so you're telling me that if you would have had 2 better defensive players and 2 better offensive players on this Razorback team, that you wouldn't have the result that you had on Saturday? You're telling me that if you just had a few more better players, that it would have made the difference on Saturday? Because it wouldn't have. It wouldn't have. Talent was not the reason why you got your rear ends handed to you there in Fayetteville. Talent was not the problem. The problem is what it's always been, is that you have a coaching staff that is completely and totally ill-prepared for the most random of times. We don't know why. Why are you so unprepared coming out of a bye week against LSU? Why? Why are you so unprepared when you're going up against a team at home? That's a huge game. Why? None of it makes sense. And it's the inconsistency. It's this roller coaster and this is where the emotion comes in, where it's all left, right, up, and down. It reminds me of that Family Guy episode where the doctor, where he's just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. They're like, what happened? My kid drew this elephant. It looks like crap. It's like, you think that it's all great one second, and then it's taken away. And then you think it's awful one second, and then they redeem themselves. This emotional roller coaster that it's putting fans through. That's, I think, another reason why people are really fed up and wanting to give up. They're like, we're tired of going through the emotional highs and lows. It's exhausting, because that's the word that it comes up to me every single time I think of this football team and this football program right now. They are exhausting. You exhaust me. You exhaust my efforts. You exhaust my mental capacity. You exhaust my passion. You exhaust me in every way, and I'm tired. I'm worn out. I just let me do something else. And that's I feel like how a lot of Razorback fans, they're just exhausted from this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't blame them. And you're not making any grand proclamations or assumptions or your own observations there. Sam Pittman said it after the game when he was asked what he told the team afterwards. He said, well, we were outplayed, outcoached, out physical. How many times is it just acceptable to hear that? And Andrew, I know you tweeted out yesterday about especially the out-coach part. How many times does the head coach get to say we got out-coached before we realize that it's just not okay? It's unbelievable to me. And also, I just don't know. I'm never going to be able to wrap my head around how you can go from the performance against Mississippi State, they suck, whatever, to having a game at home where you have the opportunity to clinch bowl eligibility and get into the top 25 of the polls in the first time since God knows when, and you just come out and not only lay an egg, you quit out there. I mean, it's the shit we saw against Auburn last year and against Missouri last year, and when they completely let go of the rope with Chad Morris. How do you get there in 1 week? Like, what the heck happened in practice? Like, what's really going on? Or was it just they were just getting their ass kicked that bad that they were like, whatever, let's just get this over? I mean, what happened? I just would really like to know how we go from one extreme to another so quickly. It doesn't make any sense, because you watch them certain weeks and you go, man, this team is fun. Yeah, it seems like they really are all in it together. Oh, yeah, maybe they could do something cool. And then you have something like this where you go, huh? It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, that's a great point. And to your point, the head coach said it was one of their best weeks of practice of all time. Like, he thought it was everything was trending in the right direction. Like, they were super prepared, super ready to play this game, according to him. So according to him, it's like this performance, it's, and Ole Miss had 3 of their top players out. Like that's where it's like, look, we can do the whole talent and NIL, all that stuff. It's just dishonest. It just is, because those factors are still the same against a lot of these other teams. And I don't know, man. It doesn't feel like the head coach goes out and says himself, they're telling you what they feel like the expectation in the program should be at. And when you have people that are kind of just accepting of where it's at, okay, look, we can always, I'm 26 years old, about to turn 27. Arkansas has only been good at football in like 4 or 5 of my years on this earth. Maybe 6 or 7, depending on where you put the bar. So, look, if we want to just come to the conclusion that Arkansas football is never going to be higher than a 6-6, 7-5 program regularly, like, okay, we can make that argument. But I know there's a lot of fans who don't feel that way and don't feel like that should be where like the bar is set for this program. And so I think there just needs to be a little bit more clarity between the university and this fans of what is really capable, this football program is really capable of. And it just is hard for me to believe that they're only capable of what we're seeing now. When you look and you see John Calipari getting it done in the NIL department, getting the best roster he can on campus. You see the baseball program nationally relevant every year, soccer, track, like all these other coaches have circumvented all these new NIL issues and all these talent discrepancy. Oh, the state doesn't have talent. They're somehow able to field nationally relevant teams year in, year out. And I think we just have to be honest about, can Arkansas football do that? And if you think they can, then I don't know how you can justify being like, yeah, everything's fine. Let's just keep everything the same.
Yeah, you can't do it. You absolutely can't do it. And it's just the embarrassing element to it, because we'll get to your phone calls, folks. I know, because we got them lining up pretty heavily, but it's about the embarrassment that you had on Saturday. If Arkansas would have lost to Ole Miss, I mean, shoot, we all picked them to lose to Ole Miss. Like, we all picked them in our Inside Arkansas predictions. I think most people felt that way. BetSaracen and the lines, if they felt that way. So it's not like this is some sort of shock. If they would have lost the game, just throw a score 28-14 or something like that. I mean, nobody would have felt great, but it would have been like, But it's the embarrassment. Like, the game was over in what felt like 5 minutes. The game was over. And if you say, Sam Pittman, that you had your best week of practice or you felt like everything's great, okay, so then what the crap happened? Then what happened? Is your team that mentally soft where one thing goes wrong and then they just crumble? Is it as simple as that? Did somebody say something in the locker room before the game? Like, you can't say it was a great week of practice, we did all these good things, and then not be able to identify where and how it went wrong. That's troubling to me. You're the head coach, man. That you got to know your team. And if it's something like that where everything feels good and then suddenly it doesn't, you need to be able to identify exactly what happened. And I don't know if he can. I don't think he does. I don't think he has a clue. Just to be honest, I don't think he knows.
It's also pretty alarming that you're going into a bye week now, and kind of what he said was, you can look at it one of two ways. Either you want to get right back out there and just kind of get that sour taste out of your mouth, or you feel like you need the bye week because you need more than 1 week to figure things out. And that's where he feels like they're at. Like, that's very alarming to me that that's the case. And then, like, the conversation about, having to go back and look at the tape to see if they were giving some things away defensively, because it wasn't like Ole Miss's tempo was getting them. Kiffin was just getting up to the line, check on check. And then he was winning that chess match every single play. And Kiffin even talked about it after the game. He was like, yeah, I mean, we were able to just kind of scheme up anything we wanted to there. And, we had Watkins, and we would just move him around the field, pick whichever matchup we liked, and we were hitting it every time. And it's just, I get it. Like, he's really good at coaching offense or whatever, but my goodness, man, this is not a Division II coaching staff here. Like, we've seen, and we were talking about Travis Williams for head coach, a few weeks ago. Again, I go back to my question, and this is the further along we get, or the further away we get from this game, the more that what's sticking in my head is, how the hell did we get here from where we were this time a week ago? I don't understand.
I think you both bring up a good point in that the good coaches, like the best of the best in sports, know what's going on. They know what to expect. They know where they have deficiencies. They know where they have strengths. They kind of know how these matchups are going to play out. And obviously, you're trying to do everything you can to, if you think you're negative here, you're trying to circumvent that and all that. I get all that. Sam Pittman, for sure, does not know he doesn't know how his team is going to play on a given Saturday. He has no clue, because he's admitted to that on both ends as well, of like, oh man, like we were kind of pleasantly surprised by this, or man, we had no idea this stinker was coming. It does seem like it's just, again, like they don't really, you said they don't have a clue, John. When you have a loss like this, I feel like that curiosity should really be at an all-time high. Like I would have honestly it been okay if Pittman had gone to the press conference and been like openly perplexed of like, man, we really saw the game playing out this way. This didn't happen. We need to figure out why it didn't happen. He didn't really have any say anything about, oh, we thought we were going to be able to do this. We thought we were going to be able to do that. I think I always say that word acceptance. I've said it a lot in the last 3 days. There just seemed to be like a little bit of, okay, that makes sense aspect to Arkansas getting beat by 32 at home. From Sam Pittman, from other observers who were like, well, of course they gave up 63 to a team that hadn't given up or hadn't scored 30 all year. Yeah, that just makes sense. Like it almost seemed like it made sense in Sam Pittman's head that they got beat the way that they did. And that alone is concerning as well.
Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas.